Coffee Colored Concepts presents Tasty Treatises Spoken Word Audio Essay Series. FMK-Martha, Ina, Christina. Iconic Culinary GirlBoss Empires by Cori/Corrine DaCosta. Martha, Martha, Martha. Ina. And Christina, may I call you Tina? It's okay. Are undoubtedly iconic entrepreneurs. Empires that in total have amassed net worths of over $600 million and close to 200 published written works. I have had inquisitive obsessions with these women at various stages of my life, thinking that their lives are case studies, and if I read, understand, and study, I could figure out how to make it work. If I molded myself in their business models, maybe I'd be successful. Taking note on how they created connection, community, and value. I could too. I wanted to be like them, and parts of me still do. I have been an exemplary worker in the past, working so hard for other brands and businesses, putting my own money in the till when the drawers were short. Once I was talking to a chef friend and I said, "Hey, let me know if you need a toasty to your Chang." She is a creative problem solver and a known culinary industry intellectual fixer. The middle of a Julia Child and Olivia Pope Venn diagram. I would joke with many of my friends, once you get on, let me be your assistant. I will be on your coattails, but I will keep them spotless, excellent condition, dry clean quality. As Ina Garten's memoir has been recently released, a Martha Stewart Netflix documentary is on the top 10 on Netflix watch list right now. And with a shelf of Christina Tosi cookbooks, I'm on the edge of my seat at my computer trying to write out and organize my feelings. We are all socialized as women, an apparent commonality that brings us together. Noticeable differences. I am a queer Black millennial, but we are all culinarians. Martha and Ina are self-taught, and Christina and I have formal training. Like Martha, I have thought about creating an omnimedia. I think I have wonderful ideas and have been institutionalized. Like Ina, I have found a wonderful romantic love story that has shaped and guided my frame of possibilities, and I have to start small. Like Christina, I experimented with food at an early age and have a bold approach to flavors, love a throwback taste moment, and embrace failure and change. Unlike Martha, perfection isn't something I care too much about, as it is unattainable and unsustainable, which she perhaps learned the hard way post-prison. Unlike Ina, I have children who are a joy to me and teach me as much as I teach them. I am not a cliche hater, y'all, to be frank. I'm a fan of them and see them as universal truths with bad PR. Unlike Christina, I am not thin. I am a femme for them, the people. Just before the credits roll on the Netflix documentary Martha about Martha Stewart's life, my brain said, wow, her property looks like the perfect plantation. Oh, and by the way, perfectionism is a key characteristic of white supremacy. As soon as we see that issues like white supremacy and enslavement, they haven't gone away, they have just been reshaped. See California's election question decision. And I, as the kids say, thought I ate with that one, or cooked rather, either one. Martha is successful because, as the documentary mentioned often, she is the perfect example of an American woman. As they note several times in the program, she is just pretty enough, just smart enough, just like the boys enough, just perfect enough for the average woman to aspire to. Many opinion pieces over the last 20 years have called Martha the original influencer, and I would agree, but put some respect on B. Smith's name too. She has shaped women for decades. After my viewing, I wondered if she had done any advocacy for prison reform, but why would she? Her net worth was at its peak in prison at $1 billion. It's giving They Were Her Property by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. It was a fitting way to end the documentary. In the first sections of the work, Jones Rogers mentions women at various stages in their lives during the antebellum era. What a coincidence that Martha Stewart shares a namesake with Martha Gibbs. Gibbs had an authoritarian hands-on approach to managing an agricultural landscape plantation that led to her being detained by Union officials for a time, and upon her release only temporarily freed the enslaved folks in her possession. They were her property highlights the gendered bias and institutional protection of white women. Historians and scholars before Dr. Jones-Rogers said that with their scholarship, because of their gender, white women of the South were shielded from the cruelties of slavery and thus unaware of the devastating reality of slavery by society and scholars alike. Jones-Rogers sets the record straight, as Black femmes often do, and with astutely written scholarship, lets us know that the intergenerational legacy of white women having access to capital of all forms is what defines them as mistresses. They were her property, also states that these women mirrored male leadership of and over enslaved folks, despite their Southern lady sensibilities. It is clear to me that there are similarities between both Marthas, the first culinary goddesses with empires. It is not access to capital that makes them cruel. Instead, the pursuit of amassing wealth without regard for ethics or consequences that make them good American citizens, America's first girl bosses. If we examine women's economic investment in slavery rather than its simple ideological and sentimental connections to the system, we can uncover hidden relationships among gender, slavery, and capitalism. The products of these women's economic investment, the people they owned, including the wages enslaved people earned when hired out to others, the cash crops they cultivated, picked, and packed for shipment, and the babies they nursed, were fundamental to the nation's economic growth and to American capitalism. Another piece of media I have been musing on is a podcast clip from author Malcolm Gladwell of The Tipping Point, who offers this framework for looking at historical figures. It is layered like a cake. Here's the link for reference. I like that Gladwell is yes-anding history. Black or white thinking, a characteristic of white supremacy, is not helpful to us. The founding fathers can be geniuses and assholes just like all of us are. However, they never had to deal with the cavities, gastrointestinal upset, and diabetes that happen when we all eat and digest that colonial project layer cake for centuries. They are dead and gone. Can we move on from the peer pressure from the past to hold up things that no longer serve us? The comments under the post gave me hope and surmise better than I that this cake is neither red velvet or even grayscale with confetti. The confetti is love and liberation, but has layers of each and more. Adding context and more perspectives allows us to see the bigger picture and more accurately shape and mold the future into a place we want to be. As soon as we see issues like white supremacy and slavery, that they haven't gone away, they have just been reshaped. I, as the kids say, thought I ate with that one or cooked instead. Either one. Ina is a straight queer icon. In an interview doing press for her recently published memoir, she was asked about that, and she said it was because on her show, she was real. She showed her real friends who happened to be gay, and it wasn't about that. It was about the food she hosted and enjoying life, which in her memoir is a stark difference between her and Martha. Ina was perfectly imperfect compared to the perfectly perfect, which is how at one point Martha Stewart signed her books. My takeaways from listening to Ina Garten read her memoir were, wow, what a love story, a partnership ahead of its time. No wonder people thought Jeffrey was gay. Their relationship has a queer politic, having separate homes, careers, multiple stages and shifts in life, and choosing to remain childless during a time when that was not a fashionable choice, which is how Martha came to be a mother. It was just what everyone was doing, she said in her doc. Living life on their terms, Ina and Jeffrey are against the world. It's a lovely sentiment. Be ready when the luck happens, Ina's title advice. I try to be. I have good ideas. I feel no matter how many times I sing Lucky Girl by Carlina, I cannot manifest my way out of white supremacy. But you know what has been a radical force in how I think about and approach change? Accepting my queerness as a politic and more. Proximity to queerness is interesting. Maybe the proximity gave Ina a competitive advantage. The defense of queerness is a different issue, though. defense is the position of Black women, it seems, to defend human rights of all kind. Think Marsha P. Johnson and Stormier de Levier. Black people have access to capital, but it is capital that is cultural. The exchange rate for that is another complicated system. Queer relationships are revolutionary. There is this trope that for some queer folks in relationship, there's this complexity of not knowing if you want to be someone or want to be with that someone. Does Ina defend her queer friends politically? I'm sure. Maybe. Is advocacy a part of her platform? I feel this in exploring my relationship with these women and their brands. I would even put Julia Child in this grouping. I wanted to be the Black Julia Child. I would often say that in the past. Teaching is an intergenerational legacy. I have the privilege of patience and unique understanding to do, as we all have our thing. One of my amazing mentors, Dr. Elias, said, "You don't think that anymore, right? Because we already had a Julia, and we need a Corrine, we need a Cori." I have come to believe that more and more as I know, like, and grow as a food person on the planet. If I were to explain Christina Tosi and her career to someone who has never heard of her, I would say, think Taylor Swift vibes if she was a brilliant baker. There is a caveat here. Christina Tosi didn't have an investment banker for a father. So the access to capital investment in her talents on the scale of Taylor Swift was different. However, one thing I admire about Tosi that Taylor could take note of is how to respond when people call you in about a concern with your brand. When the tipping point came, the name Christina Tosi had used for the dessert that made her famous, she changed it from crack pie. You are welcome for not doing my soapbox big one right here, maybe another time, to milk bar pie, which showed that you can take accountability for the way your products interface with people. Tosi shook it off. Do I find an issue with that video? And the shoulder shrug emoji. It's kind of meh, as I find Taylor in general. I'm not sure if Taylor has ever come out and addressed the racist alt-right fans who support her, which for me is a layer on a complicated cake or pie. Taylor seems to be a girl's girl, though, shielded by mega fans, and the all-powerful white women's here defense. I respect Christina, who has an impressive resume and has worked with Wiley Dufresne and David Chang. I will also say that Tosi, like Martha, aligned herself with the boys' club in a way that most women chefs must. In an Inc. article, Tosi notes that with the Me Too movement, she was afraid of alienated men. And I thought, more so than supporting women who have come forth? Interesting. She does mention it, but I might be wrong. But the thought tenement of Me Too was decentering men and focusing on protecting women. In the article, she says many men are doing the right thing. This was in 2018, but are they doing enough of the right thing at the right time? Are they acknowledging their bias, learning about how to hold them and hold themselves and their male peers accountable? If we are looked at alpha male podcasts, I would say maybe not. Are there actually men feminists or womanists who stand up for women when they aren't in the room around to give them a piece of pie? No say. I am nonetheless a Tosi fan, and her story inspires me to just start with my dreams and ideas. As her title advice suggests, dessert can change the world. Let me know if you want my cream of wheat custard recipe. I, as a Black student of food, know that vanilla and sugar historically have come at a great cost. Enslavement. Another layer, complicated cake or pie. All three of these women have built brands around themselves. They are successful. Martha's net worth is 500 billion. Ina's, I believe, 60 million. And Tosi's is still a cool million today, with unprecedented earning potential as her career unfolds. Believe me when I say my feelings are a complicated cake. It's a mixture of awe and abhorrence, lust and loathing. I see myself having much in common with these women and these fraught feelings about that. I am jealous of their climbs to the top and the way their creams rose to the top, seeming so rosy. Their paths were not easy, and entrepreneurship is a real struggle. Succeeding in business is a dream of many, myself included. I want to create space and value for my chosen communities and communities who choose me. I am not sure if the feelings stirring in my body are jealousy. They might be. I expressed this concern with someone I respect so deeply and dearly. She said some folks want what those historical older founding father men Gladwell talks about, what they promised: life, liberty, and all that and then some. Happiness fully cooked, not just a pursuit. Maybe that is the fallacy those founding fathers wanted us to pursue. Happiness, and only guarantee it for a few good white men. Some people are here to call BS when they see it. Their response helped me understand that it could be jealousy, and connecting to another's humanity comes naturally, a gift I have. Making space, holding complexity, and investigating whiteness. Complicated cakes I am making, but let me bake. See what I did there? Upon recalling a conversation with my aunt in high school, the era of T-Swift and T-Pain, I told her I felt white on the inside, but my cake was still baking. Dr. Eternity Clark, a brilliant soul with whom I have had the pleasure of crossing paths, defended their dissertation titled In My Softest and Most Liberatory Dreams, Reflections on Holding Complexity and Decentering Whiteness in their/her work. Dr. Clark summarizes the work of other scholars in the social sciences, which adds scholarly resonance to this layering framework. Several models are outlined in their defense to create pathways that author bottom up and top, as well as micro, meso, and macro layers. She discussed projects and the fact that decentering whiteness, holding complexity, and dreaming up new realities are muscles that need to be strengthened. There is a sensory perception of holding things, which is also true of holding the figurative. Bring senses and sensuality to sociology in a queer and liberatory way. The senses are how we engage with life. Food is life. Clear links to community building and accountability are made with food we love. Martha, Ina, and Christina have built communities around their brands, perhaps without even realizing they're engaging in community organizing. In business, the term synergy is used to describe when entities work together to create value, and for biology and sociology, it is about entities working together to develop care and community. In my dreams, I'm not famous. I have access to resources to problem solve as these women could creatively. They filled gaps that they saw and were fiscally rewarded. My rewards would be reparations, reparative, land back. I'm living a dream right now, the dream right now. I live intergenerationally with my family in a community-type village on the land, Piscataway, of the Piscataway people. I had the pleasure and privilege to be a part of a family where mutual aid is praxis and action on the daily. I am lucky, I am blessed, and I have a responsibility to make my family and myself proud. It would be nice to have my own space, which has never been seen before. A Blue Hill Stone Barns is an innovative farm and restaurant food system, if you get my gist. A place of co-learning, commensality, community, and communion that is beautiful, respected, and free. Yes, a culinary HBCU where there are classes of all ages, degrees, etc., all in one room. A farm restaurant, a tiny home eco-village, and everything is free. Free food, education, housing, water, therapy. A culinary utopia of healing for all, but strategically disadvantaged and marginalized groups to the front. Black femmes first, as Queen Latifah said. Maybe this place is beyond physical. Maybe it's in the metaverse. At least then it cannot be destroyed by fire. I believe when Black femmes are free in the United States, we will all be free in this country. Why? Because they have always made a way. Like B. Smith, rest in power queen, Pinky Cole, or Fawn Weaver. I'm not jealous of these women, though. I am proud. That is an extension of happiness. Hold on. Let me get my feelings wheel. So, if I am jealous, that is an extension of anger. That tracks. That feels true. I can be proud of my Blackness and angry at white supremacy for sure at the same time. It will be apparent that those two things are different, and I value whiteness as I do Blackness as a social construct as they inform one another in comparative context. I am anti-white supremacy, full stop. So imagine my shock and awe in life when in work of learning and unlearning, I find that Western culinary kitchen culture and white supremacy culture are one and the same. Control V, Control C, Control V. I'm upset. I want to change it. As an abolitionist, I am anti-carceral punishment and opposed to violence. So FMK was clickbait. You got me. The game could be a little kinder. So I saw on some educational blogs that sharing a cookie, F, making a cookie, M, stealing a cookie, K, were alternatives that some folks use in elementary classroom settings. Whom would I share a cookie with? Whom would I steal a cookie from? Whom would I make cookies with? For this essay, it's cake. I would share a cake with Christina because we have similar taste, which would be fun. I could impress her with my flavor combinations. I would make a cake with Ina because of her proximity to queerness, realistic expectations to hold the complexities of life, and her reputation as a devoted partner. I would steal a cake from Martha because she has the most cakes and they probably have the most expensive ingredients. Those hidden costs baked in are often lingering tastes of colonization. Of the past we cannot escape, but we can hold them, investigate, interrogate, take a bit, try to understand where the bitterness is coming from and substitute that. But as my training speaks, bitterness can be used to the chef's advantage in some dishes, but it should be balanced. We will find that balance in nature, in the culinary community and culinary care, in culinary arts therapy. I highly recommend Sara Elise's A Recipe for More. It is so good as a text that gives clear strategies for next steps, or reach out to me or for folks to follow who are doing the work with a capital W. Crystal Mack or Tunde Way, really excellent projects to discover. Deep breath. Let me call my therapist or bake something or both. What do y'all think? What are y'all going to do?